Hello and welcome here. I am so excited to be making YouTube videos again. It just feels so good. I love being here. Anyways, I recently asked over on my Instagram an AMA, so ask me anything, and I got quite a few responses, and I love talking and I love Q&As, and I just feel like it's a great union between figuring out what people are actually interested in and being able to sit here and chat with you guys. So I'm going to be going through those. There's quite a few that I didn't get to over on Instagram because it is kind of time consuming. I can elaborate more on some of my answers, so I'm going to be going through some of those today. Okay, lots of questions about if we want more babies. The short answer is not right now. Like, it's a definite no right now. I do not have the energy or the capacity to handle another baby right now. My heart wants another one. My financial situation right now does not. I keep saying I want a house before we have a third kid. Like, we are renting somebody else's basement for way too much money right now, and it's a tiny 2-bedroom place, and I just feel like we wouldn't fit here, and we can't really afford to be moving to something bigger. Yeah, so I just don't feel like right now is a very good time to be bringing another kid into the world. But also, I know that life can look pretty different in a 5-year window. So I'm not saying no forever, but it's a no right now. The other thing too is, like, Billy, of course, has a great weight in this decision, and right now he definitely says no, like forever no. But I also always catch him saying things like, oh, let's put this outfit away for the next one. So kind of confused. If we do have another one, it will be a much bigger age gap, and I'm hoping that once these two are a little bit older and a little more manageable, that we might be able to take a breath of air and then decide that yes or no, we do want one. Anyways, take a breath. I had quite a few questions about religion, like what made us leave and just some stuff like that. So this happened in 2017. Like, we were raised Mormon. We both come from families of 4 siblings, so 5 each. And yeah, we were raised Mormon. My husband served a Mormon mission. We got married in a Mormon temple, and we were very completely 100% devout and very faithful. In 2017 is when we left. And the reason it came about, which is one of the questions, it just came about very suddenly, kind of, because my husband started looking into the history. And here's the thing, like, when we were growing up, being raised in the church, and I did this little number crunch one time, we spent on average about like 10 hours a week at church or doing church related things. So like studying all of the different things. So I felt like we should have known a lot more than what we did. And growing up, the internet was not a thing. So I feel like they were able to teach whatever they wanted. And then when we are adults now and we can easily Google things and find out that what we were taught growing up is just flat out lies some of the time. And a lot of it is horrible. And so it was just a disconnect, and it made us very angry, honestly. And looking at how horrible some of the stories were and just different things, I'm trying not to get into specifics because I still love people that very dearly love the church, so trying not to bash it. But for us personally, it made us angry, and we wanted nothing to do with it anymore. And so that's how it came about on how we left the church. Just looking at the history, seeing that it didn't match with what we were raised to believe it was, and honestly wanting nothing to do with a church that was founded in certain ways or had certain beliefs or taught certain principles. And honestly, I have not had any interest in any kind of religion since then. I am very leery of organized religion, and I kind of just think that a lot more harm comes from it than good. But another question was specifically, did leaving a religion play a big part in becoming a no-support family? Struggling with this? Not really. I feel like a lot of my support would have personally come from if we lived in my hometown with my family. I know that I would be swimming in support if we still lived there. However, I hate my hometown. I love my family dearly. I do not want to live in my hometown. And I feel like there's a cost either way. So like, if we lived in my very small hometown where there's nothing going for it, I feel like that would be a cost to my children as well. I don't know. I just feel like we're happier and we just have so much more going for us living the life that we're living now. But the cost of that is that we do cut off our family support, which is very sad and it's horrible, but there's no good solution there. I don't know. And then this one kind of goes along with that. How do you deal with guilt doing anything for/by yourself as a no support parent? I struggle. I still struggle with this too. There's no good solution. Unfortunately, you either have to pay for it or you just have to shoulder it all yourself if you do have no support around. And we do not pay for any of it. Like, we don't get babysitters. He's not in any kind of daycare. There's nothing. If I do want a break, I have to put it on Billy's shoulders. And I feel guilty about that a lot of the times. There are certain things that I refuse to feel guilty about. I go to the gym anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week, and I don't feel guilty saying, hey, I'm going to the gym. You're gonna watch the kids for a little bit. And he doesn't like make me feel bad about it or anything. It's just in my head. It's that stupid mom thing of like, oh, I can't ask for help. But yeah, I very, very rarely get time away from my kids. Right now is actually one of them, which is really nice, but I'm using it for like work things. I don't know what the answer is. And then it's that whole argument of like, well, how do you expect your husband who works a full-time job to be taking over and giving you breaks? Like, where's his break? But then the other side of the argument is like, I wake up at work and I work all day long until 9 o'clock when the kids go to bed, and I don't get any breaks. I don't know. It goes both ways, and we just try to support each other and try to be communicative and give each other grace, because we know that this is a hard phase for both of us and we're doing great. Anyways, how old are your kids? My oldest just turned 4 and my youngest is 1.5. What did you do for work before being a stay-at-home mom? I did the most random jobs, and so this is a big reason why I'm not like pushing for a career in anything, because I didn't have anything set in stone before I started having kids. Again, going back to the whole thing where I was raised Mormon, and having kids in a family is like ingrained into you that it's the most important thing, and I agree. Like, I still believe that and I love that, and I would choose this every single time. But yeah, like I got married when I was 20 and I had him when I was 25. And so I worked truly random jobs. Starting in high school, I worked at Jason's Deli, which is like fast food. And then I went to college and I worked like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. on the weekends doing janitorial work. And then I quit that job because it was terrible after way too long. And then I did HVAC. So heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And then I graduated and then we moved to New York City and I did administrative assistant work in Manhattan, which is crazy. That was the most depressed I've ever been. Sitting at a corporate desk all day long, 40 hours a week is not for me. And then we ended up moving an hour north of the city and I could not find work. Like, I was applying all over the place and couldn't find anything. So I ended up nannying, working for somebody that had their own Etsy shop, and then like professionally organizing, and I kind of became like an assistant to somebody. And that was honestly, I loved it. I loved being able to like work one-on-one with people and kind of like make my own schedule a little bit and just have the flexibility of creating my own schedule and then having it change so much. Like, I love the deviations every single day. Like, it wasn't the same thing every single day. That drives me crazy. Anyways, after that we moved another hour north of the city, so I had to find a new job, and I ended up working at a general store. So they made good coffee and it just had a bunch of like random general store stuff, and I had to make sandwiches and stuff like that. It was like an upscale general store. I don't know, it was truly a random job. And then after that I worked at a hospital. I did patient registrations for a while. That's when I became pregnant. That's when COVID hit. And so as soon as COVID entered our hospital, I was like, I'm out of here. And so I quit, and then I had him, and then I haven't gone into a workplace since then. So I have no idea what I'm gonna do. I am going to figure that out after my kids are in school, if we do go the school route. I also am curious to see where content creation goes. Like, I'm hoping maybe that this could be like a full-time thing in the next little while. And then another question was, have you considered being a speech language pathologist or SLP assistant? Because this is what I got my undergraduate degree in. It was in communication disorders. So that is both speech language pathology and audiology. Unfortunately, you have to go and get continuing education. So you need a master's to do SLP, and then you need a doctorate to do audiology. I actually am not very interested in doing speech. I never have been. I was much more interested in the audiology. The idea of going back to school for 4 years to get a doctorate makes me want to barf. Purely for the fact of the debt that comes with it. Like, if I could just go to school and get this degree, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would do it with both my kids. It would be a no-brainer. However, the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that we would be in debt from it makes it a hard no. The other thing too with this is that we keep moving so much, and it's like we have to be settled for me to start a program, and then I also don't want to be paying international fees. So there's a lot involved with it. Unfortunately, I can't just like nip into a school, get this degree, and then start working. I would love to be an audiologist. I think it's one of my dream jobs. But yeah, life just hasn't played out that way. I don't know what's gonna happen 20 years from now, but we'll see. What's your zodiac sign? I was born in November and I'm a Scorpio. I think that's what a zodiac sign is. Any tips on how to prepare first child for a new baby? So there are so many great accounts on Instagram, but a lot of them, I think the biggest things that I did was just kind of like talking about it. We got him a baby doll. One of the things that always stuck with me is never blame the baby for anything. So if your oldest is asking for you to play with them, but you can't because you're like feeding the newborn, don't say, oh, I can't play with you right now, I'm feeding your sister or whatever. Say something like, oh, give me 5 minutes and then I can play. Having a partner with you to help keep the older one entertained and to get a lot of the energy out is good. And then letting them help, I think, is a big thing too, because they take so much pride in being able to help and participate. So letting your oldest one hold them in a very like controlled environment on a soft couch where both of you are like right there to catch the baby in case they're dropped or something. Letting the older one cover the baby with a blanket and just be like nurturing, I think that really helps build up the bond. And honestly, I just feel like it's luck of the draw. Some kids are very excited about having a sibling and they're very excited about babies, and other ones hate them. Like, I did all the things, but the first 2 weeks were hellish. I'm not going to lie. I literally thought, what a great mistake we've made, because we couldn't even leave them in the same room, like out of arm's distance, because I was so scared that he was going to do something awful. But actually, after 2 weeks, for some reason, he was fine, and all of a sudden he loved her, and I don't know what the difference was. Honestly, I just feel like it was him. He had to process it, and then once he did, he's like, oh, this is life now. And then it's been pretty great since. And it's also like the more that she can do, so it's like once she could start smiling, then he got more excited, and when she could start crawling around, and now she's able to run, and they can like play games together, and they can share toys, and it's just getting better and better. Will you consider homeschool since you move frequently? I don't know. So my oldest is a little fireball, and I'm not going to lie, I'm very scared of the idea of putting him in school, and I'm going to do it, and it's just going to be trial and error, because if I put him in and it's not a good fit for the school, for the class, like I don't want him to be the kid that is disruptive and is causing other kids to be held back, because I hear that a lot and I don't want it to be him. And then on the flip side, if he's going and it like crushes his soul and it has to like break him to be able to fit the model of sitting in a class to learn stuff, like again, I just won't do it. We will homeschool at that point. If you had asked me a year ago if we were going to put him in school, I would have said definitely no, because I didn't think it was a good fit. However, we ended up living in the catchment of like one of the best schools in Vancouver, and they are just, from every single parent that I've talked to, they've just said how incredible they are and how like accommodating. And so that makes me want to try it at least. So I don't know. We're going to have to test it out and see for ourselves. So this one's talking about shopping. If you shop every 2 weeks, do you use frozen fruits and veggies? Towards the end of the grocery cycle, my kids go through an insane amount of bananas. I don't know if you've seen the amount of bananas that we buy. It's a lot. We buy 5 bunches at our 2 week mark, because they eat a lot of the fresh bananas, but then we also let them go like brown and speckly, and then we freeze them. But yeah, we go shopping every 2 weeks, and I feel like that is good for us. We do have some frozen fruits and veggies, but we also buy a ton of fresh produce, and then we eat the stuff that goes bad first. So like the salad greens we'll eat up in the first few days, and then honestly I feel like I don't want another salad again for another week, so it works out just fine. But then the harder things that don't go bad as fast, like potatoes and squash and stuff like that, we'll eat later because that's what's left. And it doesn't go bad in that amount of time. So I feel like 2 weeks is actually a pretty good window for the produce that we buy and everything else. And then honestly, I kind of love the creativity that you have to use towards the end when you're running out of a lot of stuff, and it makes you use a lot of stuff that you have in your pantry and your freezer. And I never feel like, oh, we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like, it's just fun, and then you have to get creative, and then you're making new meals, which is just lovely. I don't know, I love it. What is your home country? I assumed Canada, but I realize I may be wrong. And then there's another question on what brought you to New Zealand. So I was born and raised in Texas. My husband was born and raised in Utah. I went to school at the Mormon college in Utah. That's where we met and got married. And then he got into Juilliard. So we moved to New York City. We lived in Manhattan for 1 year. And then we lived north of the city for an hour for 1 year. And then we moved 2 hours north of the city for 2 years. He did a training program there. And then after that, he got his first job, which happened to be in New Zealand. So we flew out there. This was during the pandemic. The borders were closed. It was a year-long wait in limbo. We also had a newborn at that time, and we were literally floating between our family's houses waiting until we got the all clear to be able to go over. So it was kind of terrible, but it was also okay. But yeah, I would not recommend that. So we got to New Zealand. We were there for 2 beautiful years. I love New Zealand so much. I was not ready to leave. And honestly, like going back and looking at photos and memories of New Zealand makes me so sad. It's like an Inside Out when sadness ends up touching a lot of the core memories and it just like taints them blue. Like, that's what I feel like. Anyways, I'm so glad that we got to live there, and it ended up working just fine. It was hella stressful because he lost his job kind of unexpected. And then, so again, I was super pregnant at that time, and so we stayed long enough. So like his job ended and we stayed an extra month so that I could give birth. When she was a month old, we ended up packing everything up and then selling a lot of our stuff, and then we flew back over to the States, jobless. We had no idea where our life was going. So again, we were just kind of floating around with our families for a while between Texas and Utah, and then within a few months he auditioned for the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, and he happened to win the job, which is like very shocking. I mean, it shouldn't be because he's an amazing musician, but it's still just hard to get a job in a professional orchestra, and the fact that he got one so fast is really cool. Anyway, so that's what brought us up here. So 3 international moves during a pandemic with 2 newborn. Like, it's just, we've experienced a lot of stress over the last few years. That's all I'm gonna say. And we're here now, and I love that our life is like so boring right now. Like, I couldn't handle anything else. Anyways, are you able to save and put away money for retirement and after all of your monthly expenses? Yes. So I will do a whole video in the future about like budgeting and being super frugal, because honestly I feel like it is a superpower. I don't know, we're both able to be so incredibly frugal, and it's just a natural thing for me. Like, I remember as a kid saving up my first $100, and then like my grandparents took me to the bank and exchanged it for a $100 bill, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And I don't know, I just have such a big fear of not having money in the bank account that I would much rather go without a lot of things to make sure that I have a good chunk of money saved away in case anything goes wrong, which has proven very helpful with all of this change, with all this craziness. Like, we've never been super duper stressed out about money. Like, we've always been okay. Living on a sole income, moving around so much, living in super high cost of area places, we are still able to put money away for retirement and for like our kids' future education and for savings. But yeah, I will talk a lot more about that in the future in a dedicated video. How are you doing with waitlist in Vancouver for kindy, etc.? So when I first moved here, I just kept hearing all these terrible stories about how these moms were putting their kids on waitlist as soon as they were born, and they were just getting called up at 4 years old. So I didn't even try, honestly. Like, I have just put my oldest one on a wait list for a little like 2-hour 3-day-a-week preschool for next year. I don't even think he's going to get in, but I put him on anyways. And yeah, again, I didn't want to be spending money on anything, and so it's just like, I'm going to be staying home with Clara anyway, so I might as well keep William home, and that's just what we've done. But yeah, the wait lists here are horrible, and that is just the theme of Vancouver. It's just wait list on wait list on wait list. How do you like to unwind at the end of the day? So this looks very different depending on like what we're doing in life, but typically if we don't have anything, we love to watch a show together or a movie, or we'll play games. We love playing like 2-player games. We'll play like Mario Kart or Played Up or Overcooked or different things like that. And that's honestly what we like to do. It's just veg out, play or watch something, have a snack, and then go to bed after a while. Unfortunately, recently it has felt like I've been doing a lot of work because I don't do like hardly any of it during the day because I don't get breaks like this often, and trying to do anything with kids around, it feels icky, first of all, because I don't want to be prioritizing a screen over them where they can like visibly see that I'm making that choice. So I don't like doing that. Also, it's just very unproductive because I'm being interrupted every 3 seconds, and it's just frustrating for me, it's frustrating for them. So I really try to avoid it. But unfortunately, because I don't get any breaks during my day, usually it ends up falling at nighttime after the kids are in bed. Few problems with that. One, I'm already exhausted, and some nights it works fine, other nights I'm really not looking forward to it, not gonna lie. And then also that eats up, like, that's me and Billy's bonding time. That's our time that we get to actually be together. And so if I'm like, oh, I'm working on this project and I have to make a reel and I have to answer all these comments and messages and everything, that will eat up our whole like 2 to 3 window hour at night. So hoping that I can find a better balance. I don't know how, but I keep saying I need to just like dedicate a couple hours like twice a week to going to like a coffee shop and sitting down and actually cranking out so much work. Because when I do have just like an hour or 2 of uninterrupted time, I can get so much done, especially during the day when I have like clear thoughts and I have energy to do it. It's incredible how much I can get done. How much do you spend on groceries? How often do you shop? I want to be frugal, but my husband does not. I don't know how to help you with convincing your husband to be frugal. You can try budgeting, because then I think seeing the visual numbers and like how much you're spending on certain things can be quite shocking if you don't already do that. So we typically budget $1,000 per month on all of our groceries, and that extends to things like diapers diapers and shampoo. It's not just food. And for some people that might seem like a lot. I don't know. I need to ask actually what people think is a lot, because if I truly am being super duper frugal, I can get that to under $300 for the 2 weeks, so about like $600 a month. However, I put a lot of value in eating a lot of good food and buying like better quality products, so it does end up kind of being a little more pricey. But yeah, again, I need to just make a dedicated frugal video because it's a big part of what I like talking about. When did you start with sourdough? I'm gonna start, but I'm scared to commit. So I started before the pandemic when it became really popular, and I take so much pride in being able to say that. So I stumbled upon Farmhouse on Boone, who is like a queen of sourdough and all things like that. And so when I first found out about like what sourdough was and how to make it and all the benefits that come from it, it was a no-brainer to me. Unfortunately, I tried the route of starting your own starter. And again, a little backstory, again, we were so incredibly cheap. We lived in this little horribly insulated house up in upper New York, and it was very, very cold, and we didn't turn the heat on. We just walked around in our puffers. Anyway, so I tried to make my own starter from scratch, and it didn't work because our house was so cold. Like, I kept feeding it and taking care of it, and it just never matured enough to actually make like a good loaf of bread, which is critical. Anyways, after a while, we ended up getting a starter from somebody else, and then it was a game changer because I could actually make bread that turned out. And then it was just really fun, and the more you play with it, the more confidence you get, and it just is really fulfilling to be able to make your own delicious bread that has more health benefits and tastes better. And so yeah, eventually that evolved into making other things with sourdough and bread, and now we don't buy bread from the grocery store, which is really rewarding in a lot of ways. Like, one, it saves money, and two, it tastes better, and three, it has more health benefits. So I really love it, which is why I made a whole guide for it. I think that's it. Yeah, that's all the questions that I have. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any more questions, let me know. And I love doing this, so I'm hoping to make videos once a week again. Anyways, talk to you next time. Bye.